Ram Ram, Sita-Ram. This is the fourth time I'm speaking at the World Ramayana Conference, and I want to thank all the great faculty, the residents of Jabalpur, of course, Gumashtaji, who is extraordinary organizer for this event, and especially I always like to mention Ganeshwari Didiji, who always is right there in the front row holding presents for us. And of course, my guru, who is Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who's from Jabalpur. So it always feels like a homecoming to me when I come back to speak with you in Jabalpur. So I come from Fairfield, Iowa, which is the home of Maharishi International University, which is a university structured in consciousness. It's amazing to have a university. I live, by the way, in a community outside of Fairfield called Vedic City. It's an entire city built on Vedic principles, right there in the middle of nowhere in the center of the United States. So one of the things at MIU, Maharishi International University, is we talk a lot about knowledge is structured in consciousness. And what I love about the Vedic tradition and Vedic means of gaining knowledge, because we always want to start with, how do we know true knowledge? How do we know true knowledge? And in Vedic science, they've made a science of the pure subjectivity, our own inner subjectivity as a valid means of gaining knowledge. And that's a rare thing because in the West, it's dominated by external knowledge. So here we are, have made a science of this knowingness inside of us. And that's why I think of Ganeshwari Didiji, when you're sitting here, you're like the silent witness of this whole event. The knower, reminding us of the knower within. We have the knower, the process of knowing, and the known. They converge, and then we get true knowledge. Knowledge of, just like the rishis had, like the rishi sage Valmiki, who cognized the Ramayana. Later it was written down, but Brahma himself asked Valmiki to cognize the essence of the story, go inside your mind's eye, and then these 24,000 couplet verses emerge out of him. So that's true knowledge. And with that, I'd like to set the sankalpa for my talk today, is that we gain, my talk today will be on Sita, is that my sankalpa today is that we gain true knowledge of really what the essence of Sita is. What is the essence of Sita? How does Sita live in our heart? Because we want the living presence, not some objective external knowledge which we'll forget in a few days anyway. Deep knowingness of what it is to have Sita embedded in our heart. So, I want to tell you about a project that I did. When I was here 3 years ago, I launched Hanuman's Leap of Faith. And I spoke on Hanuman, this audio production I did with the famous kirtan singer Krishna Das, where we extracted all the key verses out of the Valmiki Ramayana pertaining to Hanuman, and we wove it together, where I would take the original passages from the unabridged Valmiki Ramayana, and we wove it together with commentary, and then a vision of Hanuman emerged, which is independent from the Ramayana. Rama is the cosmic journey of Ram. Hanumayana is the cosmic journey of Hanuman. And in this last year, just at the beginning of this last year, I worked on a project called Sita's Gems. Just a gem, all the different facets of Sita. Now, in the Valmiki Ramayana, only about 10% of the shlokas pertain to Sita. So, she plays seemingly, on an external reality, a minor role. She's in the not a minor role, she's in the background. She's in the background of the story because the story is Ramayana and Sita is in the background. But what happens, we took 24 of the most compelling passages featuring Sita from Valmiki Ramayana, and we brought them from the background to the foreground. And in this production, you listen to the original passages in a dramatic presentation in English. And then I attracted a dozen of the really powerful women on the planet to give commentary on these passages. And the introduction and conclusion was given by Vandana Shiva, who I consider one of the most powerful women on the planet, powerful environmentalist. So, and why did we feel this project was so necessary? Because In all my travels and speaking engagements and so on, wherever I go, especially Indian women of the diaspora, they feel conflict. Not just women, they feel conflict because their love for Ram, and they can't handle the way Sita was treated in the Ramayana. So they feel a conflict, an internal conflict between, on one hand, their love and adoration of Ram, Maryada Purushottam Ram, and their inner emotional feeling that something is really not right here. But, and here is one of the keys, most people are reading abridgments of the Ramayana. They're watching productions, video productions of the Ramayana. And when you go back to the original Valmiki text, what you see, it describes it in great detail, is very empowering for Sita. Sita has a voice, she has agency, she has power, she has resilience. So that's what happened when we extracted these passages and had them come forward from the background to the foreground. A completely new sense of Sita emerged. So that's the production. But what I want to talk today more particularly is what happens along the journey along the way, as we follow along in the pathways of Rama and Sita. Now, one of the things that I find so fascinating, there's one part in Balakanda when the demigods, petition Vishnu and Lakshmi to take human birth. Come to earth, from heaven to earth, in the case of Sita, come from earth, emerge from the earth. In that moment, we all read that, we all remember it, that Ram and Sita are avatars, but yet we get so engaged in the story along the way we forget that. They are divine beings in human form. And yet we get gripped by the emotional power of the scenes of the Ramayana. How could Ram slay Vali in the back like an assassin? There's so many different scenes, the moral dilemmas in the Ramayana, these gray areas. But we're always remembering, and then why did Sita lose her sense of self and go after this golden deer? So we forget that they are divine beings in human form, and we can use that as a mantra, literally a mantra along the way. They are divine beings in human form. This is their Lila. They've been creating this whole storyline. So let's look at some examples of this, of Sita's agency, power, and voice, and what's really happening along the way, and how Sita propels the story. It is her Shakti that propels the story. Even though we're all looking at Ram, it's Sita's Shakti which is moving the storyline along because they are divine beings in human form, and this is their Lila. It won't work unless Sita plays her significant role. For example, when Ram is exiled, Sita insists on going to the forest. She uses the most compelling logic to convince Ram to take her along on the journey into the forest. Ram doesn't buy it. He refuses to accept it. It's too dangerous. So then Sita digs in even more and more, hits him first on the level of logic, then on the level of emotion. Then people say, oh, she got hysterical. No, she did whatever was necessary to produce the result because she had to go into the forest with Ram. She invoked prophecy. She invoked emotion. She invoked logic. There was no way that Sita was not going to the forest with Ram because, remember, their divine mission was to purify the world of ignorance embodied by Ravana. That had to be done. That's why avatars come. When the world lapses into ignorance, when Dharma falls by the wayside, Vishnu incarnates to purify the world. That's what happens over and over again through all the 9 incarnations of Vishnu and the 10th to come. So she propels the story along. And the golden deer, which I already mentioned, the golden deer scene, yes, she seems to be enchanted by this golden deer. And then when Ram goes to chase the golden deer and slays Maricha, she actually becomes so harsh. It's painful to see how harsh she is to Lakshman. It pains us all. Once again, I'm going to invoke the mantra. She's a divine being in human form. Unless she can get Lakshman to go out and try to rescue Ram, she's not going to be abducted. So this is Sita's subtle Shakti Maya propelling the whole story. And then when she's in captivity, a third example, where in Sita, we think of Ravana, when he imprisons her on the Ashokavana, he tries to break her using physical, emotional means, but instead of him breaking her, she's breaking him. She's an inside agent, breaking Ravana down. He's intoxicated with love. He's so attached, and everyone, even though he kidnapped all those women, it's said that not one of he didn't have to take one by force. They all surrendered to him, except for Sita. And she just could hold a single straw up. Just humiliating Ravana, breaking him down. Of course, the most challenging, is the Agni Pariksha. Because after everything we've gone through in the story, and finally the war is won. And then Ram's harsh words to Sita when he finally reunites with her, it's more than we can bear. It's heartbreaking, actually. It's heartbreaking, not just for women, for all of us. But here's the key thing in the Valmiki Ramayana. It was not supported, meaning Lakshman didn't agree with it. Hanuman didn't agree with it. Everyone didn't agree with it. It almost was setting up as an example of what not to do. Because Ram had to play this role. He had to play this role of upholding the value of Raj Dharma. But it was much subtler than that. So what I'm trying to build up my case is that Ram and Sita work together in concert, unfolding their missions, their divine mission here on earth, in perfect ways. It's mysterious. It's often unfathomable. We don't understand exactly how they're working. But isn't that interesting? We often don't understand how the divine works. That's basically the nature of our human life, trying to figure out, make a sense of how the divine works through our lives with all the challenges, triumphs and tribulations of our lives. And here's the key point now. And this is what Nilesh and I were talking about yesterday, one of the best conversations I've had, is the key is the Ramayana is a process-oriented journey, meaning everyone's always looking for the definitive reason, what this means and what that symbolic value is. Yes, there are those values, but what's more important is how we deal with these gray areas, these ambiguities in the Ramayana. We have to fathom, why is Sita doing what she's doing? And we're often torn between our heart and our mind. Our heart is longing to have Sita being blessed and reunited with Ram. And then we see Ram do this incredibly, seemingly harsh action and words towards her. We're swinging between our emotions and our intellect and discriminating finer and finer levels of Dharma, which is one of the key purposes of the Ramayana, but it's more than that. Because we're focusing just on Ram, then we're focusing just on Dharma. But it's Ram and Sita together in consort. So we're working with the emotions, we're working with compassion, we're working with love. Sita is the embodiment of compassion, love, the generative impulse that creates and sustains the world, the Prakriti. She's Lakshmi incarnate. So we swing back and forth, and that is the powerful, purifying value of the Ramayana. That's how we follow their journey. We follow their journey, and we are swinging with finer and finer discriminations of Dharma, and opening of our emotions, and finding some way for love and dharma to come together. This is a more expanded framework. And really think about that. That's the kind of active ingredient in the Ramayana. It's more than just dharma, because here's the key. We are working together on this interweaving of Ram and Sita's energy, Purusha and Prakriti. We can't look at one or the other. And I thought of an image. It's a I don't know if Balram Singh is here, our resident biochemist, what's the code of life? What's the biochemical code of life is DNA. What's the structure of DNA? DNA is a double helix, a spiraling double helix. There's two strands that are parallel, and they weave together in a spiral. And that is just like Ram and Sita. There's not one strand that dominates over the other. They are both equal interweaving spirals, parallel tracks that build the whole code of life. They're a blueprint for creation. So I would like to invite you to see and experience and feel Ram and Sita as the double helix, this code of life.
Maybe conclude, please.
Okay, I'm coming to them. So they are co-equal creators in this Lila, this dance of life, this interweaving of the divine masculine and divine feminine. And I just want to wrap up with one thing here. I'd like you to take away this one point, is that Ram and Sita are inseparable partners in this co-creation. And when we move through the story with them, we're imbibing that quality. We're interweaving love and dharma. We're interweaving prakriti and purusha. We are following their footsteps by finding that code of life inside of us. And the one thing that I'd like to say as an epilogue, it's so interesting that after Sita returned to Earth at the end of the story, to her mother, and then Uttarakhanda happened, and Ram ruled for 10,000 years without Sita. But he created a gold statue of her, and she was always by his side. And through his love for Sita, through his devotion to Sita, the memory of Sita, but not just the memory, she was living inside of him. Ram took on the name Sita-Ram. And it's a sacred invocation to think of Sita-Ram. They are unified. They are together. They are not separate realities. And I invite you to start thinking, we always are celebrating and we have our slogans of Ram Ram. I encourage you to start really commanding the essence of knowing that Sita and Ram were never separate in the beginning. They were Narayana and Narayani. They were never separate during the story, and they were never separate at the end. They're always interwoven in our hearts. And let that stay with all of you as we move forward. Thank you so much.
बहुत धन्यवाद.